Over history, Macao has been an important gateway through which Western civilization entered China. For hundreds of years, this piece of land has nurtured a symbiosis of cultural exchange, shaping the unique identity of Macao. World Heritage, the Historic Centre of Macao, is a living representation of the city's historic settlement. It is the product of over 400 years of cultural exchange between the Western world and Chinese civilization. It is the oldest, the most complete and consolidated array of European architectural legacy standing intact on Chinese territory. The settlement of Macao by Portuguese navigators in the mid-16th century laid the basis for nearly 5 centuries of uninterrupted contact between East and West. The origins of Macao's development into an international trading port make it the single most consistent example of cultural interchange between Europe and Asia. The historic centre of Macao coincides with the heart of the Western settlement area, once known as the Christian City. Located on the southwestern tip of the peninsula, Ama Temple is one of the oldest and most popular temples in Macao. It consists of the Gate Pavilion, the Memorial Arch, the Prayer Hall, the Hall of Benevolence, the Hall of Guanyin, and a Buddhist pavilion called Zhenjiao Qunlin. Macao has been an outstanding centre for cultural exchange between China and Europe for centuries. As a result, Ama Temple became the earliest reference to Ama worship in Europe. Around the corner from Ama Temple is the Moorish barracks located on Borough Street. It was constructed to accommodate an Indian regiment from Goa, appointed to reinforce Macao's police force. This building is a clear reminder of Macao's close links with Goa and their rank as sister cities in Portuguese history. Now it serves as the headquarters of the Macao Maritime Administration. Moving along the road, narrow Borough Street suddenly opens into Lilao Square. The groundwater of Lilao used to be the main source of natural spring water in Macao. The Portuguese popular phrase, "One who drinks from Lilao never forgets Macao," expresses the locals' nostalgic attachment to Lilao Square. This area corresponds to one of the first Portuguese residential quarters in Macao, with a typically Mediterranean atmosphere containing some later Art Deco influences. Opposite Lilao Square, there is the traditional Chinese residential home of prominent Chinese literary figure and reformist thinker Zhang Guangying. The buildings are predominantly Chinese in style, with subtle Western influences in the decorative motifs, also marking a period in Macao when Chinese architecture started to display a fusion of styles from different cultures. Further up the road, Borough Street connects into Padre Antonio Street and Lorenzo Street, where St. Lawrence's Church stands. It is one of the oldest churches in Macao. The church was situated on the southern coastline of the city, overlooking the sea, and families of Portuguese sailors used to gather on the front steps of the church to pray and wait for their safe return. Hence it was given the name Feng Shong Tang, or the Hall of the Soothing Winds in Chinese. Behind St Lawrence's Church, Prater Street leads to the junction of Sao Jose Street, where St Joseph's Church and Seminary is located. The old seminary, together with St Paul's College, was the principal base for the missionary work implemented in China, Japan, and around the region from Macao. According to UNESCO records, this church and the facade of the former church of Mater Dei at the ruins of St Paul's are the only examples of Baroque architecture in China. The preservation work of the church was awarded an honourable mention in the UNESCO Asia-Pacific Heritage Awards for Cultural Heritage Conservation in 2001. Opening off St Joseph's Seminary forecourt, this little square gathers various classified buildings such as St Augustine's Church, Dom Pedro V Theatre and Sir Robert Ho-Tung Library. The cobblestone pavement unifies the area and reflects a traditionally Portuguese streetscape. Dom Pedro V Theatre was built in 1860 as the first Western-style theatre in China. The theatre is today one of the most important cultural landmarks in the context of the local Macanese community and remains a venue for important public events and celebrations. Sir Robert Ho-Tung Library Building is a typical Macanese mansion once owned by Donna Carolina Cunha. Hong Kong businessman Sir Robert Ho-Tung purchased it later and used it as his retreat until his relocation to Macao during the Second World War. He passed away in 1955 and, in accordance with his will, the building was presented to the Macao government for conversion into a public library. St Augustine's Church was first established by Spanish Augustinians in 1591. It maintains the tradition of organising one of the most popular processions through the city, the Easter procession, involving thousands of devotees. The normal religious service of this church also takes into account an especially strong participation from the local Filipino community. Leal Senado building, situated at the intersection of Tronco Velho Lane and Almeida Ribeiro Avenue, overlooking Senado Square. Originally built in 1784, this was Macao's first municipal chamber, a function it maintains to the present. Inside the building on the first floor, there is a library. The collection includes rare books dating from the 17th century to the 1950s. Senado Square has been Macao's urban centre for centuries and is still the most popular venue for public events and celebrations today. The square is surrounded by pastel-coloured neoclassical buildings, creating a consistent and harmonious Mediterranean atmosphere.